Well, hello and welcome to another edition of the CSG podcast. Today it's my honor to introduce Rene M. Miller, the CEO of ENER Systems LLC, a leading IT and cybersecurity firm serving the greater New Orleans business community for more than 25 years. Rene is a certified information systems security professional and a professional engineer, a rare combination that blends technical expertise with executive insight. He's authored books on cybersecurity, been featured in MSP Success magazine, and his expertise has been showcased in 3 cybersecurity documentaries now streaming on Amazon Prime Video. Check it out. Rene is a sought-after speaker, having presented to chambers of commerce, industry groups, financial executives across the country. His specialty is taking complex issues like cyber risk and artificial intelligence, making them practical, actionable, and relevant to the C-suite. Today, he'll be sharing insights on practical cybersecurity and practical AI use for the C-suite, a conversation every executive needs to hear. Welcome, Rene, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
It's great to have you. And why don't we just start right there? The C-suite. What are the biggest mistakes C-suites are making in today's very complex world of cybersecurity?
Well, I don't know about mistakes, but let's talk about what they should be thinking about, right?
Okay.
So cybersecurity is not just an IT issue, it's a business risk issue. You know, leaders must ensure that their organizations adopt what people should be thinking about as a zero trust architecture, a mindset, which means that you need to be thinking from a default of always allowing. That's the normal way humans are, to change from default allow to default deny. Other things that need to be, start preparing for that incident that's going to happen. Former FBI director said it's not a matter of if, it's when you become a victim in every company. So again, if it happens to the big boys, it happens to Microsoft, anybody else, we can't be, oh, well, it's not going to happen to me. And leaders need to understand the financial impact like ransomware has or might have in your organization. So cyber risk is a boardroom risk. And then secondly, I think that leaders need to be thinking about these days is AI is rapidly becoming a boardroom tool. Executives can harness that AI to turn raw data into insights, focus, put forecast, business trends, streamline decision making. It's a great tool that needs to permeate the organization, but at the same time, it needs to have guardrails put on it. And that's where I'm seeing that a lot of people don't have their head around and understand, hey, you got this great tool called AI and let's go, but they're not considering the guardrails that need to be put in place.
What kinds of tools are you using today to help these guys put up those, as you said, guardrails?
Well, in the zero trust space, there are tools that, historically it's been, we always operated from the, if we roll the clock back, people were thinking that, hey, antivirus. In antivirus, it was a great tool for its day, and it still is a great tool that needs to be in your environment. However, antivirus operates in a rear view looking. It's always the rear view mirror. How do any one of us benefit from antivirus? It's because somebody else got compromised, right? Somebody else got compromised, and then from that gets built into the antivirus databases, and then all the rest of us benefit from it. But it's somebody else had to get hit first, right?
Yeah.
So changing that from, that's basically we're allowing things until we deny them. Okay, that's the antivirus world. To flipping that around to say, hey, look, we're going to switch to what's called zero trust, which means that everything is denied by default. No programs, not even trusted people like Microsoft, Word, Excel, Outlook, whatever, Edge, Chrome, doesn't matter. Our default posture needs to be deny it unless we have a business reason to run it. For example, Dave, do you use OneNote. Use Microsoft OneNote?
I have used it.
You have used it, but you haven't used it probably in a while, right?
Right.
And so does that need to be running on your computer? It can be there, but should it be running? The answer is maybe not. And it's not a matter of if, but it's when the bad guys find a vulnerability with a given program. And I know I was picking on OneNote, but you can say the same thing about any program.
Yeah.
And if you don't need to be running it, even though it's from a trusted publisher like Microsoft, let's block it and deny it. So, and that's true for things like browsers that, hey, there's nothing necessarily we all have our favorite browsers, right? So, but should browsers be able to do things like, for example, Chrome wants to go out and use command.exe to do things on the computer. Should it? I mean, most people don't realize that it does that. And the answer is it shouldn't. We have no need for it to do it. So that's, again, another example of where we do things with zero trust. We say, yeah, but you don't need to do that. It's not helping my IT environment by letting Chrome do that. So we put guardrails on it. Does that kind of give you a feel for what I mean by zero trust?
A lot of our listeners are kind of in the tech world, and they probably understand it more than me, but I understand it, and I get the point you're trying to make. My question might come back to when you first meet a company, maybe a medium-sized business that has some protections in place, but they really don't know what they don't know. What's the first steps you have to take with maybe from the C-level down? And so do you have to investigate everything first?
You don't have to, but I would suggest it's like this. You should do what I would call whether you call it a cyber audit or a cyber assessment, but small companies, even small companies, understand what a financial audit is, right?
Sure.
And people do financial audits. Why? You hope you don't find malfeasance, but one of the things you do pick up is that maybe there's better processes inside your company that the outside auditor will look at and say, if you did this, you could be you can make your financials a little more resilient, solid, separation of duties. In the same way, doing that in cybersecurity, having a third party come in and do a audit of what's going on in your cyberspace inside your company opens up. Well, I didn't know that was going on. I didn't because all too often we get blind for our. I like to use the metaphor of all of us at some point. We get up in the middle of the night in our house. And most of us can navigate the rooms in our house, even though it's dark, because we know where all the furniture is, right? Right. But anybody else coming in, they're going to trip on it and they find it. In the same way, in our IT departments, so often we have that muscle memory, well, this is just the way we navigate. And someone else coming in, a fresh set of eyes, looks at it and say, whoops, tripped over, look what I found. And so I would say one of the first things I always suggest is whether we help them or somebody else is helping them, is you come to the table and say, well, let's get an independent third party to do a cyber assessment, a cyber audit on the organization. Mm-hmm. And it's not difficult. It sounds like, oh, hey, you're taking out a microscope and doing something. You can do these at various levels. You can do it at the 10, at a minimum, you should do it at the 10,000 foot view, and that only can literally take 15 minutes of time. Yeah. To do a sampling of, say, 10 computers and pull data in and say, hey, look, this is what we see on a sample. And if we see more, if we see something, wow, then, of course, you expand the audit, just like you would do in a regular financial audit. Start small. If you see issues, then you expand out.
So that's brilliant. So I'm assuming you can do that.
Yes, we do that.
And I think the key probably is analyzing the data you see in front of you. That might set you apart from other people. We see things other people might miss, I would guess.
In all fairness, I'm not going to see everything. And that's why one of the best practices is that even whoever your auditor is, your cyber auditor, that you're changing them every 3 years. Because they're going to have another set of eyes. because I'm not going to
Oh,
see everything. I'd like to
right.
brag to say that I will, but I'm not going to, even though I
Yeah,
try to think I can. And so you get
of
somebody
course.
else with another set of eyes, and they look at it. They take the ball and they rotate. Oops, let's look at it from that direction.
Yeah, that's a very good metaphor there. What's the craziest thing you've seen, like in all the work you've done with different companies? Maybe like, I mean, you hear all these stories, right? The CFO got an email from what looked like the CEO telling him to do something and it wasn't. And I mean, have you had stuff like that happen?
I have, and I would say one of the craziest things that I've seen that we got brought into, that one of my partners got brought into, is we had a situation of where the bad guys, they had ransomware, so we got brought in after the event, and it's amazing how brazen they've become, because in this case, what these guys did is after locking the environment, the ransom note came forward and they said, hey, look, I've looked at your financials. I know what you have on your cash balance sheet. And they gave a hard number. And they said, okay, we're not going to take it all, but we know you can afford this. And that's what we're
Oh,
asking.
wow.
And,
That's
and if I say one more thing with regards to ransomware, people are like, well, I don't have anything that somebody else wants.
yeah.
That you might think that's true, but there's a little difference. I like to use the metaphor of children. Okay, my kids are worth a lot more to me than they are to you, right, Dave? Okay, and so when a bad guy goes and kidnaps a child, as evil as that is, he's not hoping that you won't pay the ransom, right? Like it's some, hey, I got another kid. Yeah, he's not going to pay. No, he doesn't want the kid. He wants the money.
Yeah.
So in the same way, when a ransomware people lock up and encrypt all your data, they don't really care about the data. It's what it means to you,
Yeah.
and they're
Yeah.
hoping that you want it back so that you're going to pay something.
Right. That is, yeah. That's so true. And I've heard so many stories, and I know you probably have been involved in plenty. We like to keep these to within 15 minutes, but I wanted to ask you about your documentaries. And
Okay.
we're going to put some links at the back end of this for people that want to go check them out. But can you tell me how that came about and how did it go and how did you get into that? What happened?
Well, through some one of the speaking events that I'd been part of, a director from LA saw me and reached out to me and said, "Hey, look, I'm looking to put together a documentary around cybersecurity. Do you want to be part of that?" And I'm like, yeah. And I said, I can't act, right? And he says, "Don't worry, it's a documentary. You're not supposed to act. Just be yourself."
Okay. Right.
And so
I'm not Brad Pitt.
yeah, I'm not Brad Pitt. I'm not even a C actor. Okay. So,
Nice.
so no Tom Cruise here. We're not going to be doing Mission Impossible. But
Darn it.
he says, no, we're going to be talking about things that are important to business leaders and business owners. And
Yeah.
it was a series of four documentaries. I was fortunate to be able to be involved, to be involved to be in the last three
Nice.
that have been. And the topics were around, hey, the first one that I was involved in dealt with the dark web. What is it? And then
Nice.
the second one was around investigations, cyber investigations, about, hey, what goes on. And then the third one dealt with Fallout, and literally like and by the way, we came out with Fallout before Tom Cruise's movie did. Okay, just okay.
So you're not stealing anything.
We weren't stealing anything. So
That's awesome.
the Fallout movie had to deal, what happens afterwards, and again from the business owner's perspective of what happens, how does it potentially become life altering for their trajectory on exiting a business, and or everything from their whole life to what they can no longer be able to do potentially for their kids. And what can we do on the front side to prepare for and set up so that when the bad thing happens, how are you going to recover?
Wow. Sounds like we need to do another podcast and talk about that in more depth.
You know where to
Thanks a
find me.
lot.
My pleasure, Dave.
I really appreciate you spending the time with us. For all the people out there, reach out to Rene Miller. He's in New Orleans, but I'm sure he can help you just about wherever you are. There'll be information on the back end of this video. Thanks so much, Rene. Look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.